Argentina, authorities implement a preferential dollar exchange rate for hydrocarbon exports from the Vaca Muerta oil field. In Russia, the foreign minister reported that the UK special services were involved in the massacre in Bucha. And in Iraq, the government declared a 3-day mourning period following the fire that killed more than 100 people and injured over 200 in the city of Caracas. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Ana Rosabal from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. Argentina's government announced this Tuesday that the creation of a preferential dollar exchange rate for hydrocarbon export from the Vaca Muerta oil field. The announcement was made by the Minister of Economy and presidential candidate Sergio Massa, who explained that hydrocarbon companies will be able to liquidate 25% of their exports at the blue chip exchange rate, which on Tuesday closed at the 778 Argentine pesos per US dollar. The new scheme has a dual goal. It'll give a nod to the oil sector so that it can end the year with record investments, while it also a way of liquidating more foreign currency and avoiding a new run on the peso during the presidential elections. The announcement was made during Massa's tour of the Vaca Muerta North Oil Pipeline, which will start operating in October and will allow a 50 raise in transportation capacity in order to increase the exports to Chile.
This morning, we made the decision to recognize 25% of what is exported and brought to Argentina to invest at CCL dollar value to increase the levels of investment in the next 60 days in the oil and gas sector, which guarantees stability in jobs, which guarantees that we continue with the works, and also guarantees stability in the financial system.
The Paraguayan President Santiago Peña, who will assume the pro tempore presidency of Mercosur, ratified the ultimatum that his counterpart Lula da Silva, the current president of the alliance, has given to the European Union. The head of FTS believes that 25 years is enough time for the European bloc to agree on whether or not it is interested in a pact with its southern common market. The limits set by the assumption have already been expressed by Brazil. President Lula da Silva in June set a definite deadline of the last day of December 2023. The European Union's ambassador in Paraguay, Javier Garcia Giviedma, has recognized that the time has exceeded the limits of any commercial operation.
After 25 years of negotiation, I believe that we have reached a moment where we have to make a decision. Life is made up of decisions, true, and I have said and I have transmitted this to President Lula to close the negotiation, because if he does not close it, I'm not going to continue in the next semester. I'm not going to continue. I'm going to dedicate the next semester to close agreements with other regions of the world that I am sure we are going to reach agreements very quickly.
The Civil Protection Department of Haiti has confirmed that the number of internally displaced persons due to the new wave of violence now exceeds 30,000. According to the agency, between September 18 and 25, around 28,286 displaced persons were registered in Carrefour, Pistache, and its surroundings, while in the municipality of Tabara, located in south of Port-au-Prince, the capital of the country, 3,759 people left their homes, threatened by violence. Civil Protection also denounced the unhealthy shelter conditions. Likewise, the Ministry of Education raised the alarm by stating that at least 26 public and private schools have become shelters and that more than 3,000 students and 290 teachers have been displaced. And Cuban Foreign Minister Bruno Rodriguez assured that the country will continue to support efforts aimed at universalizing the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons. During a high-level meeting organized by the United Nations to commemorate and promote the International Day for the Elimination of Nuclear Weapons, the foreign minister described the end of their use as a matter of survival. Rodriguez insisted that the threat they represent to the existence of the human species can only disappear with the total elimination of these arsenals. As advocated by the historic leader of the Cuban Revolution, Fidel Castro Ruz, in 2012, in a meeting with members of the Japanese Peace Corps as part of the Global Forum for a World Leader Free of Nuclear Weapons, when he said, "Peace is not compatible with nuclear weapons," a fact that anyone can verify.
Debe seguir siendo una altísima prioridad.
Progress toward nuclear disarmament must remain a top priority issue in a transparent, verifiable, and irreversible manner.
La amenaza que representan las armas nucleares para la
The
existencia
threat that
de la
nuclear
especie
weapons
humana
represent for the existence
solo
of the
podrá
human species
desaparecer con la eliminación total de esos
can only
arsenales
disappear with the total elimination of these arsenals, as advocated by the historic leader of the Cuban Revolution, Fidel Castro Ruz. Achieving nuclear disarmament is a matter of survival. The time to take action is now for the sake of future generations.
Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English. We'll find news in different formats, new dates, and more. All the stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back. In Spain, far-right candidate of the Popular Party, Alberto Núñez Feijóo, failed to obtain an absolute majority to be sworn in as Prime Minister on the first ballot. On Wednesday, after concluding the last day of debates in the plenary session of the Congress, it was confirmed that Feijóo failed to be sworn in as Prime Minister of Spain after obtaining 178 votes against him. After announcing the result, Congress indicated that a new vote will be held on Friday. If Feijóo does not get the necessary support, King Felipe VI will choose another candidate. Experts say that the incumbent Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez, who has won the support of the multiple formations, could become the other chosen candidate.
The result of the vote was as follows. Votes cast 350, votes in favor of the candidate 172, votes against the candidate 178, abstentions 0. Ladies and gentlemen, the proposed candidate, not having reached the absolute majority, submits the same proposal to a new vote 48 hours after the previous one in accordance with the provisions of Articles 99.3 of the Constitution.
A group of Catholic Church abuse victims and their advocates on Wednesday called on Pope Francis to enforce zero tolerance against clerical sexual abuse after completing a 6-day pilgrimage to Rome carrying a large wooden cross. The 10 men and women walked 130 kilometers along the last stretch of the Via Francigena, a medieval road that connects Canterbury, England to Rome. The demonstration coincides with the opening of the Synod of Bishops, scheduled for October 4th. The sexual abuse and cover-up scandal have shattered the reputation of the Catholic Church and pose major challenge to the Pope, who has approved a series of measures aimed at holding the Church hierarchy more accountable with mixed results.
We just want the Vatican, we want church leaders to hear this and be part of the conversation as they go into the Senate, that this is a worldwide problem and that worldwide there needs to be zero tolerance of sex abuse of children, and there needs to be the protection of lay people and clergy who speak out. Their reputations and their jobs need to be protected, and it should be in canon law.
In Australia, homelessness is on the rise, with a growing number of people failing to benefit from the nation's growing economy as it readies to mark a record 26 years without recession. The unprecedented economic expansion fueled by the massive mining investment boom has boosted house prices and benefited some. But it has also led to the country's biggest cities, Sydney and Melbourne, being ranked 2nd and 10th on a list of the world's least affordable housing. The soaring prices have placed further pressure on those already struggling to afford a roof over their heads, with a public outcry and housing affordability sparking action by several and state governments to fund more social and inexpensive residential projects.
We think that homelessness is increasing in Sydney and Melbourne is due to the lack of affordable housing. In Sydney, for example, in New South Wales, there's a 60,000 strong waiting list for social housing, and the private rental market is just really unaffordable for people on income support.
Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova said on Wednesday that the UK special services were involved in a massacre in Bucha. London would have been part of the staging of events organized in March 2022 to frame Russia from an alleged massacre. The foreign minister accuses the United Nations organization of not covering enough in the investigation of the event. Minister Sergei Lavrov has asked Secretary Guterres to intervene to identify the alleged victims without success. The spokeswoman also says that during its presidency of the UN Security Council, the United Kingdom blocked all attempts to investigate the events in Bucha.
On September 22nd, Sevastopol was again under attack. There is not the slightest doubt that the attack was planned in advance using Western intelligence assets, NATO satellite equipment, and reconnaissance aircraft, and carried out in close coordination with the American and British intelligence services.
teleSUR invites you to tune in to a special interview. We will be joined by Tushili Marwala in premiere. You can tune in at 18 hours at Venezuela and Cuba and New York, and 17 hours Quito. We remind you the entrevista especial we will have Tushili Marwala. Only on teleSUR. Final short break. Don't go away. Welcome back. Refugees from the Nagorno-Karabakh region continue to arrive in Armenia following Azerbaijan gaining full control of the disputed enclave. Volunteers handed out water and held refugees and medical aid tents set up by the roadside near the town of Kornis Dor. The number of people who have now entered Armenia since Baku's lighting offensive last week has surpassed 28,000 to date. Thus, a day after a massive field blast on the edge of Stenakert killed over 68 people. Most of the victims were stocking up on fuel for the trip along a twisty mountain road that offers the historically disputed region its long lane to Armenia. Yerevan has warned of possible ethnic cleansing by Azerbaijan. The Iraqi government declared 3 days of mourning throughout the country following a fire that killed more than 100 people and injured more than 200 in the city of Karakosh in northern Iraq. The Iraqi Prime Minister Mohammed Shia al-Sudani pointed out that the intention of the measure is to accompany the mourning of the families of the people who lost their lives in the incident. An investigation committee has also been set up to determine the causes of the fire. Local authorities are inspecting the remains of the damaged structure together with the inhabitants, while the governor of Nineveh assured that the mourning in the region will be for a week. The United Nations mission in Iraq called the fire an immense tragedy and said its staff is shocked and pained by the horrific loss of life. Iran's Islamic Revolution Guard successfully launched Noor 3 into orbit, the first satellite entirely made in the country. Noor, which in English means light, was put into orbit from the 3-stage launcher cassette, or messenger in English, also of Persian manufacture. Thanks to the efforts of the specialists of the Aerospace Force, the satellite already orbits at an altitude of 150 kilometers from the Earth. The Iranian Minister of Technology, Issa Zarefur, congratulated the team of experts and the Persian people. Some Western media reported that the Iranian scientific feat generates anxiety in governments hostile to Tehran. Saudi Ambassador Nayef al-Sudairi met with Palestinian Prime Minister Mohammed Talayet in the West Bank city of Ramallah on Wednesday. Saudi Arabia's newly appointed envoy to the Palestinian authorities presented his credentials to President Mahmoud Abbas during his first visit to Israeli-occupied West Bank on Tuesday, a move linked to the recent U.S. efforts to normalize ties between Saudi Arabia and Israel. The trip by non-President Saudi Ambassador Nayef al-Sudairi came as Israel's tourism minister became the first senior Israeli official to make a public visit to Saudi Arabia. Meanwhile, the visit by al-Sudairi to Ramallah is widely seen as an attempt by the kingdom to address the key sticking point in the Saudi-Israeli normalization deal. Saudi Arabia's stand toward the Palestinians and the Saudi government has said it will only normalize ties with Israel if there is a major progress toward the creation of a Palestinian state. 27 days after a military junta was installed to govern Gabon, the U.S. government announced the suspension of some of the two African nations. Following the decision of the Economic Community of Central African States, the African Union and other groups, Washington announced a measure which has no impact due to its limited scope. Moreover, Secretary of State Antony Blinken clarified that it is a temporary measure that does not affect diplomatic relations and consular operation with its oil-rich country after the overthrow of the President Ali Bongo. South Sudan's military forces have been put on alert in view of the deployment of Ugandan troops on the border of its territory. Ruaya Koangon, spokesman for the South Sudanese forces, assured that the matter is being handled for the moment by the Joint Border Committee between the two parties, and that it will be up to them to recommend how to deal with the contingency. This Monday, the governor of the Bori region, Manuel Dumo, denounced that the Ugandan troops installed tents as military bases in the province of Kajo Keji. The regional official assured that the troops closed the border between both countries without giving explanations and provoking strong tensions among the residents of the area. Indonesia has banned goods transactions on social media platforms in a new regulation. Its Prime Minister said Wednesday as Jakarta aims to rein in the rate sales on major platforms as it says harming millions of small businesses. Calls have grown in recent months for a regulation governing social media and e-commerce, with offline sellers seeing their livelihood threatened by the sale of cheaper products on TikTok Shop and other platforms. This trade regulation has been enforced, Prime Minister Zulkifli Hasan told a news conference in the capital, Jakarta. The regulation means social media firms will not be able to conduct direct transactions but only promote products on their platforms. The new regulation is yet another setback for TikTok, which has faced intense scrutiny in the United States and other nations in recent months over usage, data security, and the company's alleged ties to Beijing. And we go back to Brazil, where small artificially intelligent boxes tied to the tree trunks in Brazilian Amazon are the latest weapon in the arsenal of scientists and environmentalists battling destructive jungle invaders. The boxes, named Curupiras after a folkloric forest creature who preyed on hunters and poachers, sport sensors and software trained to recognize the sound of chainsaws and tractors or anything that could cause deforestation. The advantage of the system is that it can detect an attack or a threat in real time, said researcher Raimundo Claudio Gomez of the Amazonas State University. Unlike satellite data, which reveals deforestation only after the fact, the Curupiras can detect it when the destruction starts. Early results from the project, financed by Brazilian company Hanna Electronics, have been very promising, and President Luis Ignacio Lula da Silva has promised to end illegal deforestation in the Amazon by 2030.
The advantage of this system is that it can detect an attack, a real crime, or a threat in real time. For example, the system will be able to detect an incursion, cutting down trees with tractors or chainsaws. It will also be able to detect a fire outbreak, so the system will monitor and warn of anything that could become a threat or an attack on the forest.
We have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For Telesur English, I'm Ana Rosabal. Thank you for watching.